would be an ecumenical matter.
Hello and welcome to Ecumenical Matters, the Father Ted podcast. We're up to season 2, episode 9, New Jack City, and it's episode 15 of our podcast. And this week's guest is a lifelong Father Ted fan. It's Sean Treanor. How are you doing, Sean?
Not too bad.
Yeah. What have you been up to? Have you watching the episodes and keeping up to date with it?
Yeah, I gave the episode another watch there yesterday, and I liked it. It is one of the better ones, I think.
It's definitely one of the funniest characters, Fintan Stack.
He's a very unusual character, I find, whenever he's compared to, say, other characters in Father Ted. And I was listening actually to the commentary, and Ardlo Hanlon said that initially whenever he was recording he didn't actually like the character.
Oh, right.
He was saying that he thought he was too violent, almost too aggressive.
Yeah. It sort of, I suppose that's what made him stick out so much in the Craggy Island world, because he was so aggressively obnoxious, as opposed to everyone else who just had their eccentricities, is what made them annoying.
Yeah, I think what Graham Linehan was saying was that the way that they actually wrote it was almost worse than that.
Oh, really? So they had to dial it back?
So Brenton Grace actually had to dial it back a bit, and he was saying that in a way he dialed it back because he was still aggressive, but he whispered everything. You know, whenever you hear him saying the things, it's like, I'd put your head through the wall. Yeah. He just says it really deadpan and sort of, he doesn't look aggressive, he's smiling when he says it. So it sort of
gives it more menace.
Gives it a bit more menace, yeah.
Well, I've got a few shout outs before we get fully into the episode. I got a shout out to the congregation here. Our future Eucharistic minister, Keel Cathers. Do you know Keel from the Logs?
I don't know. No.
Do you know the Logs, the band?
I know the Logs, yeah.
He's the lead singer.
Right.
He's currently promoting his new record, and he's agreed to be on the mic later on in the series, so that's big news. And we've got one of our super fans who's going to be doing a reading now. I think he's been bumped up the congregation. Richard Fintan. He keeps commenting on the Facebook page, so a big shout out to him, and we'll give him a reading to do later on as well.
Right.
Lovely. Sorry about that, lads. You shouldn't have your phone on at mass.
No, definitely not.
But the first thing we'll get into in the episode is the title, New Jack City. Does that mean anything to you? Did they mention it in the commentary?
No, they didn't mention the episode name at all. I don't get a meaning from it, to be honest.
New Jack. Well, New Jack is like a sort of genre thing that was happening in sort of Black American culture around the early 90s. So
right.
A lot of New Jack swing was a type of music,
okay.
Sort of like Boys to Men, that sort of idea, and everything deeper than that.
Yeah.
And New Jack City was a film by Mario von Peebles, and his father was the director of Sweetback's Badass Song. So do you know the Simpsons episode Seymour Skinner's Badass Song?
Yeah.
That's where the name comes from.
Right, okay.
But Mario actually acted in it, and he was present during a sex scene, and his father got in a lot of trouble for having a minor in a sex scene.
Right.
But he said, it's just my son's 18. This is you're talking out of your arse. Turns out he was actually 13, so he was actually committing a federal offence, but he managed to get out of it. And there's also a New Jack was also a wrestler in ECW.
Right.
So yeah, it's the New Jack City. That's where it all comes from. So,
okay.
But I don't get where it has anything to do with Fintan Stack or the Jurassic Park.
No. Unless the people in this band were particularly hairy or something.
I don't think so. No. Well, not that I'm aware of, but possibly. But I suppose it's just a new Jack because they've got rid of Jack.
Well, yeah.
Father Jack. Yeah. Now they've got a new Jack. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
It's a bit of a stretch though.
Yeah.
Because it has been an ongoing discussion on this podcast is about their episode titles.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But we open up in the episode, and Ted is listening to the racing on the radio.
It's an interesting one. I know you do that Meet the Maker thing, so that was another one on it.
That was about to mention that, yeah.
And the two horses were Divorce Referendum and Glory Be to God.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you were to expect a priest to go for any horse, it would be Glory Be to God, but obviously Ted is
come on, Divorce Referendum.
he's very adamant that Divorce Referendum wins, and of course in the end up he loses, and declares that it's the knacker's yard for him.
It's for the horse, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is I was very surprised when I saw that line, because that's a knacker's yard. That almost sounds like sort of travelist. Is that a word?
But the knacker's yard, actually, if I'm correct in that, is a term used for where horses used to go in whenever horses were more widely used for transport and things like that. The old horses would go to the knacker's yard, and then they would be torn apart and the use made of whatever they
Okay.
could. I don't know, they make glue with them, they use them for whatever else, use them for meat, to feed to other animals and stuff like that there. So that's what.
Yeah, right. I did not know that. Well, in my head it was about is where travellers lived.
Well, I think then the knackers comes from because the people who would do whatever to the horses were travellers. So
I see. Right.
yeah.
So you couldn't get away with that kind of joke now. We're okay with the travellers these days.
Yeah, members of the travelling community, as they like to be known.
Exactly. I wouldn't mind being a traveller, you know. None of the fucking bullshit like paying mortgages and all that sort of crap.
I like being in a caravan. So I mean, I'd be very happy with that. Yeah.
Fuck it. It's just up sticks here, Sean.
A lot of times that you see people, you know, well, if it's on the motorway and you're behind a caravan where you can take over, you sort of think, oh, they must be away somewhere nice. That could be fun. But then if you're on a one-lane road and they're driving at about 40 miles an hour and you just want to get past them, it can be very annoying.
Well, they're travelling at snail's pace.
Yeah.
With their house on their back.
Yeah, I mean, they have to go slow, otherwise the thing will fishtail, but it's still annoying.
Well, if you have a caravan, right, presumably you've got it furnished with plates and cups and everything. What happens to them while they're on the road?
They're all in. It's actually really well designed caravans. Like, they have a place for everything and everything in its place, you know. And the cups are on hooks so that they can't fall off, and the plates are all held in with pegs. It's actually really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And anytime you're in trouble with John Law, you just get in the front seat and just drive away.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Perfect. But you did mention that the horse that he was backing was divorce referendum, and of course we have mentioned in the podcast before that was a very contemporary issue for Ireland at the time. I think the divorce referendum would have already happened at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, would have been a massive issue in the Catholic Church. But I did want to bring up that Simpsons already did a few jokes about horse racing. It was the Mob episode, wasn't it? With Yabba Dabba Doo out in front, and
oh yeah, that Homer had bet on a horse, and it was like always comes I'm number one, always comes in second, and then Homer had backed Lasty.
Lasty, nice. But he couldn't fail when he got Santa's Little Helper.
Yeah.
At Christmas, like.
Yeah.
But you did mention we had to meet the maker there, so and I think it was Arthur. Was that
it was
right?
Arthur Matthews.
Yeah. So he's now 6'2" up, so I don't think Graham's going to catch him at this point.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's a run race, as they say. But Ted was very upset, of course, when he lost. You flipping flipper!
He must have had a lot of money on it.
Well, exactly. He wasn't resting his account this time. He was actually, putting it to good use. I
sort of wonder if maybe Ted has a bit of a gambling problem, because there was the time whenever he bet the heating allowance on Chris the sheep.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Anytime you see him and he's fantasizing about what he'd do if he wasn't a priest, he's always in Las Vegas
in
betting
a casino,
on roulette and stuff like that there. So I have this theory that the money that was resting in his account was maybe gambled away.
Oh, right. Interesting. Because I never clocked that gambling is through line before.
Yeah.
So I'll keep an eye open for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. But it was a proper old school wireless. Like, I love those radios. They're so reliable, and they never seem to run out of battery.
And have you noticed that now the DAB digital radios, they all seem to be reverting to that old sort of retro style?
We have one in the... Oh, yes. I was about to say we have one in the kitchen, but it's not. It's my house at home. But yes, they are that sort of perfect sort of shape. It's about the size of a brick.
Yeah.
And it's just a big knob.
Yeah.
You get the proper hiss, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant piece of engineering.
But there's no aerials or anything on them, like. They're...
I'm not sure how those ones work. There was something to do with crystals or something. I'm not entirely sure, but
my granny had one.
Yeah. Back
in the 80s, and it still works.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Things back then were made to last.
Exactly. We mentioned that in the podcast as well.
Yeah.
But so Dougal comes back in from giving Jack a walk, or what he thought was giving Jack a walk, but he felt that the wheelchair did seem a bit light today.
Yeah. I like the way that Dougal at that time has the mittens attached to his coat as well. It sort of gives him that childlike appearance.
Yeah, it did a very schoolboy out in winter. And I did
Yeah.
notice they were consistent with it, because every time they opened the front door, the background was all snowy.
Yeah.
So they were keeping their heads on with that as well. So like lesser shows would have forgotten about that.
No, it was. I mean, everything's really well thought through. And
Exactly,
You keep
yeah.
seeing the throwbacks to previous episodes as well.
Well, there's a few I noticed today that I didn't actually notice before. For example, one time he with Dougal says to Ted, as Ted's about to go down and challenge Fintan,
yeah.
he says, "Careful now."
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a deliberate callback to the
From the sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it probably was. Like, they would have been aware of how deeply that sort of that went down with the fans, like how well that went down with the fans. So
It might have been. I mean, the thing that I noticed was whenever they eventually find Jack, he's on the floor and they put him into the seat, and then Ted tells Dougal to take off his gloves, and they realise it isn't gloves, it's the hairy hands. Dougal takes out a comb to comb the hair on Jack's hands, and it's from the Holy Stone of
the Holy Stone
Clonrickard.
of Clonrickard, I did notice that as well. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that didn't actually come up in the main Holy Stone episode. That was from episode 6.
Yeah, that was from
previously.
the time whenever Jack died.
Exactly. Yeah. So even that was a full circle of Jack's health, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
But did you notice that Dougal, whenever Jack was lying on the floor, Dougal just give him a wee kick, to check if he's alive or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you see at the end credits in the sports day scene,
Oh yeah.
they have a bit of a pile-on, and Dougal just squeezes in with a good old kick.
He gets a sneaky dig in.
Yeah. Dougal always the fringes of the fights, just hitting the stick.
Yeah. He saw his opportunity and he went for it. You have to admire that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But yes, as you say, Jack was coming down with stage 6.
Yes, stage 6.
Hairy hand. What was the affliction called?
I think it was just hairy hands. I think whenever Ted phones up,
St. Clubbers.
when he phones up the doctor,
Oh yes.
he says it's the hairy hands thing again.
So it's just
So I think it's just, I don't think it has a name.
it's just an affliction.
Yeah.
Dr. Sinnott, who's also been mentioned before in the show.
Yeah, he's been mentioned a few times.
And Father Bigley has been mentioned a few times in the show.
Yeah.
And we found out today that not only is he a cross-dressing gun runner to the Iraqis, Father Bigley, I thought he was dead. No, he just looks dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had a teacher in school who was coming down with a similar affliction, would you have thought?
Oh yeah. That was but he was hairy everywhere. That wasn't just his hands. I mean, he just seemed like a big hairy guy.
Well, that would have been stage 7, because we've seen
Possibly
stage 12.
Stage 12, yeah. He was somewhere in. I'd have put him about maybe a good 8 or 9.
I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
so you'd have given him a strong prognosis then.
Yeah, definitely. He would have been up in Jurassic Park a long time ago if I was.
That was
charge
Christian
of
Brother Jumbo, was it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was. It was. He did just like whenever he went down to writing your book or something, it was just so distracting.
I know. And then like whenever he was talking, he'd be sort of moving his hands around to describe things, but you couldn't really focus on what he was saying. You were always thinking, my God, he's such hairy hands.
How did he move through the air? The
Yeah.
aerodynamics would sure be pulling him back.
You can actually hear sometimes it's like reeds blowing in the wind whenever he gestures.
Jack's health is quite a concern then, because before his whole head has gone septic.
And I mean it's obviously they obviously have a dedicated line to Dr. Sinnott.
That's right.
The red phone.
The red phone.
And Ted doesn't even need to dial whenever he picks it up. So if they have a dedicated line, then Jack's health must obviously be paramount concern.
They've got the hotline right to the doctor.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's like Batman's phone to Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Just the wee red light start buzzing.
Flashing light and the buzzing sound.
And Dr. Sinnott is dealing with another patient, just checking their pulse, but as soon as the red light buzzer goes,
he just drops
everything.
Yeah.
He probably just lost count immediately, so...
Probably.
Yeah. Good old Dr. Sinnott. I mean, at least he knows. He knows where his priorities should lie.
Definitely, you have to look out for the priests.
Well, yeah. Well, they're the ones that'll keep everyone else coming to you as well, you see, so...
Definitely.
And we found out that Jack, he had a term for the needy.
I was writing down, actually, all the people that Jack dislikes, and they went through the sick, the poor, and the needy, which, as you were saying, he has a term for, a shower of bastards.
A shower of bastards,
And
which is the proper collective term for bastards.
Yeah, a shower.
A shower, yeah.
Yeah. And then later on, they were talking in bed, and they were saying that he disliked people, he disliked strangers, and then also people he knew.
Yeah.
So in the one episode, you get an insight into the amount of people that Jack dislikes.
Which is pretty much everyone.
Pretty much everybody.
Apart from the person serving him beer.
Well, even then, I don't think he likes the person, just the beer.
Yeah. And I was thinking as well, because Dougal gets drunk later on in the episode.
Yeah.
And on his way out the door, Ted's dragging him out the door, and he goes to the pub.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be a pub in Craigellon.
Well, there's the one whenever you remember the one where they had Chinatown, and
oh yes, of course, yeah.
Ted went there to smooth things over with the Chinese, and and they were all in the pub. There was a time whenever somebody threw an egg at him, so he went into a pub where there was Irish music playing to escape from it, and then obviously whenever he gets in, he sees it's full of Asian people.
Yeah.
So then,
okay, so there is one pub on the island then.
yeah, so there's at least one.
But how would Jack wouldn't sit well in there, I wouldn't say, if it's got such an open door policy for everyone.
Well, I mean, he seems to have alcohol hidden everywhere around the house. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it gets delivered to the house, I'd say, at this point.
yeah,
It's just the parishioners come in.
plus he's not really fussy. I mean, like, he's drank toilet duck and incense and things like that there.
Of course,
so.
yeah, of course. And powers of all.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's the worst of everything.
Exactly, yeah. Yes, and then Ted is described, or Dr. Sinnott advises Ted that maybe he should send Jack up to St. Clabert's, or Jurassic Park as it became known.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ted's secretly excited about this, but he doesn't hide it very well. But for a start, he goes, yes! I mean, oh no, that's...
Yeah.
And then when he puts the doctor out the door, he starts celebrating like Fabrizio Ravanelli.
Yeah, he has the cardigan over his head and everything, and running up and down the corridor.
Yeah.
He only just about gets it down before he gets through the door.
It was, it's well timed, you see, just to get it back on, just to go through the door.
I like that too, though. I mean, I would imagine that those two scenes were filmed at different times, whenever he's doing the running up and down the corridor, and then whenever he walks through the door. But you can see that his jumper's still ruffled whenever he comes through the door.
Yeah.
So there's good continuity in that.
Yeah, well, see, I'm not sure about Ted, if it is filmed in front of a studio audience. Is that something you've ever come across?
I think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, in American shows, they had to actually say it when it happened, because
Yeah.
Frasier is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Well,
Or it was usually Cosby, actually, but...
That's actually the reason I know that is because on the commentary, Graham Lennon actually said that was filmed the week of the Dunblane massacre.
Oh, fuck, right.
So he said that it was actually a really strange atmosphere.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Whenever they were filming it, because obviously that there's playing heavy on people's minds and stuff. But he did say that some woman actually wrote to him after Dunblane. I don't know if it was one of her relatives were in it, and she said that she never thought she'd be able to laugh again until she watched Father Ted.
Oh, fantastic, right?
Yeah,
So
but it would have been brilliant if Graham Linehan hadn't lost the letter and never actually wrote back to her.
Oh no.
But I suppose she got what she needed out of it, so that's good.
Well, was it Judy Murray? Was it Andy's mother? Because Andy Murray was in that massacre, like.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I don't know if the gunman actually went into his classroom.
Yeah.
But he was in the school at the time, like.
Wow.
So yeah, he went on to be world champion tennis player.
Making a negative into a positive, definitely.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Maybe it was Father Ted that steered the course.
Possibly. Yeah.
Possibly. But yeah, fuck, I didn't know that at all. What was there anything else on the commentary that you wanted to mention?
He was saying about whenever you've said before about they poke fun at priests, but they don't, like, they're not cruel about it.
Yeah.
In a way. And he was saying that Arthur Matthews' favourite thing was always sort of awkwardness. So you see that a lot whenever,
right, okay.
Like Ted will try to explain something whenever it's unexplainable. And he was saying that was something that they both had in common, that they didn't hate priests. He says that there was times whenever there's been things that have happened in their family, and there's been priests there, and they are part of the community in Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But he was saying that he's an atheist, and he was saying that what he liked more was whenever you say things in a certain way, like he says, if you talk with people, they're very unwilling to actually use the term atheist to describe themselves, but whenever you actually talk to them about their beliefs and stuff like that, it's pretty clear that they are atheists.
Right, okay, as in like if he's just chatting to somebody at a wake or something?
Yeah, like
right.
if he was chatting to somebody just generally, not talking about religion, well, I suppose he'd have to be talking about religion, but believing in God and their beliefs, theological beliefs, I suppose. He always said that people would be very unwilling to describe themselves as an atheist, but whenever you hear what they believe, that's what they are.
Yeah.
And he was saying that that's the way he always saw the priests being, is like the people that he talks to. So there's almost a pretense that they have to keep up, but they don't really believe it.
Right, yeah.
I mean, one of the episodes was the one where Jack died, and he's saying, "Oh, he's gone, Ted. He's gone," and then he says, "Sure, we'll see him in the afterlife." Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, Dougal pretty much is. We come to the conclusion last week that Dougal is some sort of messiah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or some sort of prophet at least, because he's the only one who actually sees through this visage of the pretense. And he's immune to the pain, the 10 steps of pain.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
And Dougal, yeah. So maybe he's some sort of enlightened one that the rest of them can't keep up with.
You remember the one where they were upgrading the Holy Stone of Clonrecord?
Of course, yeah.
He was talking with that bishop. I forget his name.
That's Bishop Fax, I think.
I think Bishop Fax was the older one who had the heart attack, wasn't he?
No, it was Bishop Jordan.
Oh, was it? Right.
Yeah.
Well, he was talking to him, and he says he's treasured this one.
Yeah.
To Ted.
He says
he has wisdom beyond his years. Apparently.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So he's the only one who's actually enlightened enough.
Yeah.
See the hippies. You see the hippies are always a step ahead of the.
Yeah, they know the score.
Yeah. So yeah, then we have Jack. Figures out Jack needs to get away because he hears a doctor's coming.
Yeah.
And he decides to start escaping on a Flymo.
A ride-on lawnmower.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had brand names and everything.
Well, apparently they do.
But well, at least we know that they.
Well, to be honest, I don't think Flymo will even make ride-on lawnmowers, because they make the electric ones that, like, that's why they're called Flymos, because they sort of hover. They don't have wheels. That's
ones you actually plug in.
Yeah. So
yes, yeah.
So I doubt it was actually a Flymo brand ride-on lawnmower.
Other ride-on lawnmowers are available.
Yeah.
Did you ever have one?
No.
Yeah. Did you ever have a lawn? Like a necessitate one?
We actually were going to get one, and then we took it out for a test drive on our lawn, and because of the the roll off on our lawn, it actually kept sliding down towards the fence. It was incredibly
so you're
unsafe.
actually just cutting up.
Yeah, so just couldn't have one.
No, well, my dad got one like years and years ago.
Yeah,
it's like the greatest thing ever. You just fly around this thing and you stick it up into third gear and you'd hit nearly 5 or 6 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You even got in the cement right. You could even just swing the back out.
Yeah, swing the back out and dig up your whole lawn.
Yeah. Well, you had to pull the blades up so you weren't like chopping into the cement or anything.
Right.
But yeah, so Ted needs to set the alarm for the morning, just after him and Dougal settle down for the night. And as soon as he does, Dougal gets straight back up and starts stressing himself. Yeah,
there's a couple of instances of Dougal's stupidity in that little segment. The first one is where he says, "It seems like yesterday," and Ted's like, "Because it was yesterday." Well, see, you could argue that that's him just being enlightened again. That he's just taken away the it seems like the facade of it seems like yesterday, but it was. Yeah, but I think seems like has a certain meaning, which is it's not, but it's like that. It's like that. Well, Ted was getting a bit impatient when they were just about to fall asleep at that point. Yeah, and I don't know. I thought he was getting a bit. He was getting annoyed at Dougal at this point. I think by this point he's just like, Jesus Christ. I'm just gonna have to stop him and just shut him up from now on, because he has done that a few times now. He's like, just stop talking, Dougal. Yeah. But I want to bring up the fact that he gets up and dresses himself, because from when they go to Jurassic Park, it seems that priests are
very very responsive to light.
Yes, yeah, I didn't
So
think
maybe
about
this was
that.
the first instance of it.
Yeah. I don't know if it doesn't seem to be a normal thing for Father Jack, but whenever they put him in with all the other priests, it seems to be a thing. And like you say, whenever Dougal sees the light going on, he's straight up.
Yeah. If you could train yourself to be that automated response to a light going on.
Yeah,
To wake up every morning.
I would be very happy if I
Yeah.
could get up that easily in the morning.
Exactly, yeah. So just practice that. You practiced that for a while, didn't you? Trying to wake up specifically to
I
an
did.
input.
There was a technique that I learnt online where you have to train yourself to get up so that it's almost like an automatic response, and you're supposed to do it, at night, to train, and then whenever you wake up, then it's like an automatic response. But whenever I did it at night, I got into bed and I was like, oh, this is too cozy, I don't want to get up now. So then,
But that's the training. You have to train yourself over the hump.
yeah, no, I just, whenever I got into bed, then I was like, no, that's it.
When you say
I'm here
at
for the
night, do you mean like at PM or something, or do you mean at like 2 a.m?
So you're supposed to do it like before you fall asleep. So say you fall asleep naturally at 12, so you'll take 5 minutes where you set your alarm for 1 minute past 12, and then as soon as it goes off, you get straight up. So you like throw the covers off and stand up, and then you do it at 2
Get
minutes
straight
past
into
12.
Your morning press ups or
Do
something.
3 minutes past 12, and then you keep practicing it so that it's fresh in your mind, so that then whenever you go to sleep and eventually wake up and your alarm goes off, it'll just be your
fuck.
automatic response. You just throw the blankets off and get up.
Yeah, well, see, my automatic response when I wake up is just go straight over and press the fucking snooze button.
That's the same for me. I
And-
have like alarms set for
different parts of the room.
about
and
10
everything.
different
Yeah.
times.
But yeah, and then we finally get introduction to our nightmare priest, Fintan Stack, as played, as you said, by Brendan Grace.
Yeah, there's actually a bit of a theme running through Father Ted, in that they get comedians rather than actors to play the big parts. I mean, like Dermot himself and Ardlo Hanlon, both stand-up comics. You had Tommy Tiernan was in it,
Yeah.
Graham Norton was in it, Brendan Grace now. There's so many times whenever they've went for comedians rather than actual actors.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I was chatting to a boy I used to know who was a cartoonist in the Sun, and he was saying that, yeah, in the mid-90s, if you're a comedian at all in Ireland, you were getting unfeathered head just to bump your career up. And I did find out today, actually, that in the football episode, there was a famous comedian playing the referee. But yes, so he's actually recreated football episodes. So I'm going to bring that up in the over 75s football tournament, because he actually stood in the same sports hall and said, "Those aren't real arms."
Because there's actually a bit of a disconnect there, in that you have Frank Kelly, obviously a well-established actor, and Pauline as well. She did stage acting and stuff.
Yeah.
Well-established actors, and you have Frank Kelly sitting there saying "feck, arse and drink"
Yeah.
most of the time, and then you have Dermot Morgan, who wasn't a trained actor at all, and he's the main character.
Exactly, and getting all the pathos moments and everything.
And they said that there was a bit of not discord, but like sometimes if Dermot's doing it and needs to do it again, Frank Kelly would be sort of sitting there just sort of muttering under his breath, amateurs. But one of the producers said that it was actually good, in that with an actor you get the same response all the time, you get what you want. But he said that there's a certain spontaneity, and sometimes whenever they were filming it in front of the audience, that they would do an extra look or do something that they had, that they thought would be funny, to sort of feed off the vibe of the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And it worked actually for them.
Well, I do have the theory that comedic actors are the best actors,
Right.
because it's much harder to act funny. Like you can do the whole Jim Carrey thing all you want, but even that's quite a skill in itself, to be that sort of aggressively wacky and zany.
Yeah.
But to do it then in a sort of Father Ted way, or Paul Whitehouse is very good at it as well. Just really, really small acting, but make it incredibly funny. Like that is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So then when if you put those kind of actors into dramatic places, then they've got such a better insight into emoting. Like
Yeah, I know that Leslie Nielsen was just like a normal actor for much of his career, and then he eventually got into do like Airplane and
Hot Shots,
and all that sort of stuff. And he said that it was really, really difficult for him. And
Well-
really, all he was doing, he was playing the straight man.
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly. But he wouldn't really say he was playing the straight man, because in Hot Shots he was very dim-witted,
Right.
but he was playing it so down the line, like
Yeah.
so straight-laced,
Yeah.
that you would think he was just playing the straight man, but he was just saying such idiotically stupid things, like his hat blew off the ship
Yeah.
in this this massive like warship.
Yeah.
Just let's swing around and pick it back up again. And but yeah, so it was like so the fact that they had comedians in, look, as you say, comedians would respond to the audience a lot better. As you say, they can have little moments where they can pick up the vibe and like, oh, somebody's chuckling over there.
Yeah.
If I just do one little thing, it'll have them in stitches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they would have that performance side of things as well.
I suppose it's a very audience-facing job. I mean, you're out there by yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to respond to the audience. So
Exactly,
I
yeah.
suppose they have that intuitive.
It's one of the things, like I've been an actor on stages and everything. Very difficult to get up and do a stand-up set,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the worst thing is that nobody makes any sound.
I know. You're there to make people laugh.
Yeah.
If nobody does that, then basically you failed.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fact that you're failing becomes then the fucking focus of the show.
Yeah.
I remember it was in the Empire did a comedy night, and there was a guy came in and he was like just uber hipster, like fucking. This was like back in 2006 or something as well.
Right.
So this was before hipster even happened.
Yeah.
And he was wearing like big massive retro sneakers and skin tight jeans, and his hair all quiffed in some
yeah.
crazy way. And he came out and he just did not look the part and was never going to play in Belfast at all.
Yeah.
And he went and did his 15-minute set. He was about 22 or something, and the people at Belfast are reasonably nice. They weren't heckling or anything. They just started chatting to themselves. So all he was performing to was this like buzz of gentle conversation.
Yeah. I'd say if you went into the toilets afterwards, you'd probably hear a gentle sobbing coming from the cubicle.
Well, exactly. Yeah. He was up there saying, "God, yeah, it's a great crowd. This, isn't it?" Yeah, and he was struggling just to get them. But then a comedian from Dublin came on, and he just had them within seconds. Like,
Yeah.
so it's all about your stage presence and how you can read an audience and everything. And
Definitely, yeah.
so Fintan Stack, he's a big drum and bass fan.
Big time.
Yeah,
Jungle music.
jungle music. Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard music to like. It's definitely hard to get into as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they picked that because it is almost such an assault on the eardrums.
It is, well, I'd say that was a lot to do with it. I do know a few people who are into it.
Right.
Like I find it hard to even countenance where you'd even start to get into jungle music, like, because
I know.
it is quite innovative. And do you know how they make it?
No.
So they basically, you'll get a drum sample of like just or
Right.
something like that, and they
Yeah.
just speed it up to about 300 beats per minute.
Yeah.
So then it's just,
Yeah.
and if you have other samples going over that, then you've got a rhythm and stuff, and
Right. Okay.
as you've seen with Fintan, you can actually get into a groove where you're dancing and everything.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got the assistance of mind-altering substances, I'm sure it helps as well. But
I don't know. I'm with Ted. I think it sounds like somebody drilling into a wall.
well, exactly. I did put Shazam on when the songs were coming on. So
Right.
the first song he played was "Limb by Limb" by Cutty Ranks.
Okay.
Yeah, and the second song he played, this is when Mrs Doyle came in,
Yeah.
was DJ Tactics, The Way, the VIP mix.
Right.
So they didn't even go for the A side, like they went for the B side remix.
Well, that's really obscure. I like that.
Yeah, so I mean, you think they would go to something like, there is famous drum and bass artists like Ronnie Size, have you ever
Yeah.
heard of him?
Yeah.
Like that would be the obvious choice, and again, a lesser sitcom with less attention to detail, they would have just went with the chart friendly one. But they clearly went down and dig deep to
Yeah,
find.
they were trying to find the most obscure thing
Yeah,
they possibly
exactly, yeah.
could.
And then we get a list of they start missing Ted then when after they've met Fintan Stack, because he does seem to be right arsehole. The first thing he does is steal Ted's cereal right out from his mouth.
And then there's the part where he says, "I'm going to play some music," and Ted says,
very
go
confidently.
ahead."
Yeah.
And I mean, like, even if you were a complete asshole, I still think that if somebody said "go ahead," you'd sort of take it. But no, he goes, "I wasn't asking permission."
Just
as
gets his cassette in.
if to just completely stamp his authority in
Yeah.
the thing.
Well, yes. Ted tells us the meal times. So 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, half 2.
Yeah.
They have a meal every 2 hours or something.
And of course, if they're not well enough fed, Mrs Doyle would be happy to fix them up something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we've already discussed, she's got a good line on making sandwiches anyway.
Oh yeah.
She keeps herself busy anyway.
But I'm quite surprised that Ted and Dougal aren't a bit fatter.
Yeah, they managed to keep their shape. But I suppose they wouldn't really drive much on the island, would they? They probably walk.
Not.
Like I know for a fact they walk to the shop.
Yeah.
To John and Mary's.
The only time you really see them driving is whenever they go onto the mainland.
Yeah, exactly. So, they probably just walk everywhere.
Yeah.
Use the car maybe once a week or something.
Probably.
But then they're reminiscing about the times they had with Jack, as you said. So he doesn't like strangers. He doesn't like people he knows.
Yeah.
But it was funny when he did those things like kick Dougal up the BOTTY.
Yeah. I noticed that whenever Ted's talking about that there, he says whenever he kicks you up the BOTTY, trying to be very polite about it, and then whenever Dougal remembers him putting a spider in Ted's mouth, he says that wasn't funny. It was funny when he kicked you up the arse. He completely loses all his decorum and just goes straight to the base element.
Just make sure Dougal hurts more than he does.
Yeah.
And then they went into a little montage of other memories of Jack. So they were about to put up a frame. And Jack decides to misappropriate the hammer from the nail head into Ted's head.
You couldn't exactly say he missed. I mean, that was definitely deliberate.
Yeah, exactly. Then he sneaks Ted's bath time. He sneaks up on him with a couple of pegs and gets him the nipple. Which, again, I tried to spot how they did that. There was no way. That looked like he had pegs on his nipples.
It definitely did.
And I can't imagine that's a very pleasant experience.
No, but it's all for the art.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Ted's having another nice relaxing golf game at the pigeon putt.
Yeah.
And Jack just runs in from off screen and just runs straight over.
and every time he does it too, he has a massive grin on his face, like he thinks this is absolutely hilarious.
Well, it was funny, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. You can't argue with him.
And again, like we discussed the stuntsmanship on the previous episode, so we discussed it last week with Turby. That hasn't actually been released yet, but the amount of time and budget they must have spent just on stuntmen.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine they had Dermot Morgan flying over the bonnet of that car, like.
I don't think so. But then again, it looks an awful lot like him.
Yeah. So I mean, it might have been. There was another scene in a few other episodes where it was like I can't see where they've cut that.
Yeah.
With Jack as well.
Right.
Where Jack just jumps it through the window.
Yeah.
And you think, right, there hasn't been a cut there.
Yeah.
But Frank Kelly is like a 60-year-old man. Was he really going to that nimble up a windowsill? Like,
well, there was the one where he set his hair on fire.
Yes, yeah, and that's a very dangerous stunt. Like,
yeah,
like the insurance on that would be fucking. You know, if that was a Hollywood picture, you'd be having like $1 million for that one episode for just the insurance. Like,
oh yeah, sure. Remember whenever Michael Jackson set his hair on fire? It was a massive thing, and he was in hospital for ages.
Yeah, for the Pepsi ad.
Yeah,
Pepsi really went the extra mile to get their man in the frame. Eh?
Definitely.
And then they get visited by the two priests. I don't suppose you have their names, do you?
I don't have them, no.
No, they're pretty nondescript, these two priests, compared to some of the other visitors they have. But they were just discussing other priests that they know. So, as we said, we mentioned Father Bigley just looks dead. We had the priest who had a lump on his head in the shape of Connacht.
Yeah.
I can't even think what Connacht looks like.
You see, it'd have sort of jagged edges around
Monaghan, Mayo and Galway.
Yeah.
Geez, that would be... it would be an affliction, all right, wouldn't it?
I imagine if it looks like Connacht, I mean, Ulster's sort of like just one lump.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine that Connacht sort of has a lot of wee ridges and like lines out from it.
Was that? Do you reckon that was overuse of mobile phones or something?
Maybe that was back whenever mobile phones were really dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they were just cancer sticks in your head.
Yeah.
And then there was a different. That was a different Wendy Shepherd Henderson.
Yeah. Oh, there's loads of them.
Oh, at least. So yeah, they love coming up with the priests. The little, the other priests that happen. Like, I did remember reading an interview that they were saying to have the setting in the priesthood. Just give them the excuse just to fly off the handle with this little bubble of other priests.
Yeah.
Who can be up to all sorts.
Well, I know. I was watching Comedy Connections for Father Ted. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen that one. But I know the show.
Arthur Matthews was on it, and he said that even the whole idea of having a show about priests came to him whenever he used to be in a band called, it was a U2 tribute band called the Joshua Trio.
Right.
And
that's a good name, actually.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And he said he used to come out and introduce himself, and he'd say, if you see anybody at the back that can't see, just say hello to them, because they're here from the Monaghan School for the Blind. And he said he just loved that thought of having, like, priests all have their own personality. He said he would change it up sort of every week just to get a different personality. And there's so many, I mean, like you say, they're mentioning priests all the time.
Yeah, they're just rattling them off. And
I mean, in the Christmas special, Mrs Doyle goes through, I don't know how many.
Yeah, I can't wait till we do that, actually. I want to see if there's any priests that have already been mentioned.
Yeah.
Before she actually lands on Todd Unctious.
Yeah.
A bit of an update, by the way, on the Todd Unctious story. You've been hearing about this?
No.
You know that the actor,
oh yeah,
Jerry McSorley,
yes,
is now on an OTR, if you want, because he's got
Right.
an arrest warrant out on him.
yeah.
I think he has actually been reprimanded now. I think he's been hauled before the authorities.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. It was difficult finding details on it, but he seems to have.
It sounded like quite a comical thing that he did.
Yeah,
was it flower pots or something?
Yeah, flower pots.
Yeah.
He broke a few flower pots, and some guy in Donegal decided to issue an arrest warrant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's small town policing, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big crime.
Give them something to do. It's
like
tax up to date.
it's like the theft of a whistle.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a phone call then to Larry Duff, because again he's absent.
Yes.
This one he starts off with the House of Cards.
Yeah.
And
I like that one. I mean, it sort of leads you down one path of what you expect is going to happen. I mean, you're thinking he's going to get the phone call, and the whole House of Cards is just going to topple over.
yeah,
And then he gets the phone call and he jars a wee bit, but that's not what happens.
exactly. So he goes to lift his phone while still concentrating on his House of Cards with the last house up. It's quite a high, quite a high level. And
Well, he was on a ladder, so it was obviously really.
Oh, okay,
really
yes.
high.
So yeah, that must have been about 12 packs or something. But
Must have been.
he goes to, as you do, when you're concentrating on something, you go and
Yeah.
absent-mindedly search with the other hand for your phone.
Yeah.
And instead he picks up a stapler
Yeah.
and just staples the side of his head, and that's what topples the House of Cards when
Yeah.
he falls off the ladder. Again, not a fatal accident.
No.
In
never
fact,
seems to be.
Is it doesn't. The only one that even looked like a fatal accident was the cliff, but as we've already explained.
That was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
it seems to actually be getting less and less lethal.
Yeah.
Because last week all it was that he lost 10 grand, or he didn't win 10 grand.
yeah.
But yeah, so he puts a stapler on his head, which is incidentally, and probably around this time as well, is when they started stapling people's heads to, instead of stitching, giving people stitches.
Right.
Have you ever had staples or anything?
I've never had them, no.
Yeah.
But I did. It sort of occurred to me whenever he had the stapler so close to hand, was he cheating? Because whenever the first call came in, and he jarred a wee bit, the whole rest of the House of Cards looked really steady. So
okay.
I'm sort of wondering, was he cheating? Because why else would you have a stapler if you're
That's
going
very
to
true.
House of
Actually,
Cards?
that's very true. Like right to hand as well.
Yeah.
See, you've sussed him.
It was within arm's length.
Well, he's tremendous fun, but now we're finding out he's a tremendous cheat as well. Then.
Yeah.
But yeah, no staples in people's heads. I know a few people have had staples in their head. My brother, for example,
Yeah.
fell off a swing, and so he had to go to hospital and get staples, and
Right.
then I have heard of it happen on just the side of the football pitch.
Is it for bone breakages or is it for skin?
I think it's skin.
I mean, it'd have to be really deep tissue to hold a metal staple.
Oh yeah, well I suppose yeah. I know that because you can just do a staple like instantaneously, whereas stitches requires a proper sit down operation.
Yeah.
Which is the whole
Yeah.
6 hours, whatever. So I thought that was just for handiness.
Well, I mean, like, they still do use staples, so I don't know. I don't know. Because, I mean, like, you can use super glue too. That's what super glue was originally invented for.
To close gashes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in rugby, what to do if it's a forehead knock?
Yeah.
They just get a big wad of Vaseline and just put it on the thing.
Yeah.
And then whatever stickers or plasters they have, or what do you call them, sticky stitches. But
Oh,
basically,
the sutures.
yeah. Well, not the ones you actually sew in, just the ones you stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Vaseline would stop the blood flowing.
Yeah.
So it just clot behind the thing.
Yeah, that's what they use in boxing too.
Yeah. The corner boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we get they start watching the sports video, the sports day.
Yeah.
Did you have anything from the sports day in your notes?
Yeah. It turns out that the guy that wins it is actually a mate of Graham Linehan's.
Oh, really? Right.
Called Ken, and apparently he shows up all the time. They've used him as extras many times.
Oh, fantastic! Right. Well, he was very proud to have won that trophy. Anyway, he was very pleased with himself.
Yeah, he was very pleased with himself, and he wasn't letting anybody take it off him.
No, exactly. Yeah, because it did, as we said, it did fall into a bit of a free for all.
Yeah.
And Dougal got his jibe in. My favourite event though was probably the lassoing.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the bucking bronco there. Oh.
you don't really see that in too many sports days.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have one in our school. It was. I really wish we had it. Like that would have been.
We did, but we had things like
Egg
and spoon and three-legged race and things like that. There was definitely no bucking broncos.
So, see, we missed out as children.
Definitely.
They would have had them in Texas, I'm going to assure you. And then Fintan Stack comes in. Oh, you like watching that, little boys in their shorts.
Yeah.
You preferred if they weren't wearing their shorts.
You're sitting there thinking about that, you dirty fecker.
With a big smile on your face. Brilliant performance of just, as you say, like it took the aggression out of it, but give it a much more.
It was much more sinister.
Curdling. Yeah.
It was less aggressive, but much more sinister.
Exactly, and again hitting the paedophile priest angle as well, but not as subtly as they did with the rock star Niamh Connolly, which just straight out says it's a hideaway for paedophiles. Yeah. But it was still in the consciousness, and they were obviously getting embarrassed as well.
And it was almost as if it was the priest making fun of another priest.
Well, exactly,
that time as well. So, but that was a great example of Arthur Matthews' awkwardness. Like, what would you do if you were in that situation and somebody said to you, you'd like watching boys running around in shorts? I mean, there's what can you say to that?
Well, Ted actually was alright. Like, he challenged him pretty sternly. He says, "You're not embarrassing. If you're trying to embarrass him, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not working." But he goes, "Yes, I am."
Yeah. I mean, he knew what he was doing, and then even whenever the other priest said he was a very rude man, he just said, "You say that to me again, I'll put your head through the wall."
Well, the wall of course had been weakened because he's been drilling on it.
Yeah, and it looked like a stud wall anyway, so I don't think it would have hurt that much.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if he had just turned his head and watched the TV, he would have seen there was no boys on at all.
No, it was all adult priests.
Yeah, why didn't they just point that out? It would have been fine.
Yeah.
So he spoils the sport for them. So he's literally a spoil sport.
Yeah. And then he calls them girls.
Yeah. That cutting insult.
He says goodbye girls, and then he says bunch of wankers.
Yeah. Bunch of wankers. So what else do you know Brent and Grace from them?
Well, that was the thing Graham Linehan was actually saying on the commentary. Like, he used to be really, really popular, almost like a cabaret, and that was part of the reason why they actually got him, was they sort of wanted to bring him back, and they remembered him fondly from their childhood. And Ardal O'Hanlon was saying the same thing,
Right.
Remember him being...
Didn't seem that old though.
No, but he had been around for a long time at that stage. And now he just does bits of stand-up here and there.
Right. Well, he's probably feathered his nest at this point. I suppose at this point, like, he'd be 20 years older than what he was then. So, but yeah, I vaguely remember from TV, but I can't really remember much else of what he was in.
I think he just started to stand up and things like that there.
So it was more of a stage presence.
Yeah.
So the other thing he does is he steals Jack's whiskey and donates it to Dougal. And we get our line of the show from Dougal being drunk.
Yeah.
God, I love being a priest. We're all going to heaven, lads. Way. But when Dougal's defences are down, he does confirm what we've been suspecting, that Dougal loves his little ensconced bubble that he's got himself into.
Yeah.
Where it's just literally a safe space and a safe environment where he can just be himself and not have any threats to him or anything. And
yeah, it shows his naivety in a way too. I mean, like, he just he's just so content, and
Exactly,
he's just
yeah.
so happy, and he just loves being a priest, and he's going to heaven. So
He started, yeah. But so he's surprised that Dougal hasn't ever ventured to the drinking before himself.
no, you'd imagine with there being that much of it in the house that he would have tried a bit before.
Yeah,
but
just out of sheer rebelliousness. But no.
I think he just needed the bad influence of Father Fintan Stack to
Well,
lead him down the wrong path.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I do love this conspiratorial wink he tries to give Fintan.
Yeah.
No, wait.
We weren't at the pub.
Yeah.
He just seems so repulsive, because then he takes Ted's keys and cleans out his ear with it, and that's something like you see people doing it sometimes, and you just think it sort of makes me cringe anyway.
Yeah.
But if somebody did it with my keys, I mean, it's bad enough watching somebody do it with their own keys, but if somebody did it with my keys, I would not be happy.
You'd level them, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm going to take your car and drive it into a big wall. Which would be more annoying, him picking his ears with your keys or him driving your car into a wall?
Well, I suppose you don't really need your keys anymore because your car's been driven into a wall.
But think of the insurance, you could claim it was stolen.
Oh yeah, big time.
Would that put your insurance premiums up though, would it?
It could do, yeah. But I'd say insurance premiums in Craggy Island are probably quite low if you think about the crime rate.
Well, yeah, true, actually, true. Well, they're selling crack cocaine in the street, and the pimps have to get their whores in line. And
well, that's what could happen. It starts off with the stealing of a whistle, but it could escalate to that.
Drive-by shootings in the night.
Yeah.
And then Mrs Doyle comes in. Now, as you know, we've been counting her ago-ons, and I did mention before I didn't want to count these ones because she didn't actually say them.
So you're not counting them?
Well, I did actually count how many she did.
Yeah.
13.
Right.
I obviously can't play the clip because it's all visual.
Yeah.
So if we were to add that on, she'd currently be on 44.
Right.
But as it is, she's still on 31. I'll actually let you. What do you think? Should I count them? Should I add them? Or
to be honest, I would count that because I think that there's the part that cements it,
that culminates
in like the public psyche. Before, like you say, it's something that maybe attributed to her. The only time whenever she went on the really long spiel of them was the time whenever they had the guy over from the BBC.
Yeah.
And so I think whenever she did that, I mean, obviously the public were aware of it before, otherwise the joke wouldn't have worked. But exactly, I think this cemented it. And I mean, like, anytime you see reruns or people showing the best bits of Father Ted, that's always part of it.
And it's a gif and everything now. It's a perfect looping gif because the way she just does it in a perfect rhythm. Yeah, you can cut the gif perfectly.
And I like the way whenever she gets to the last one as well, like with the syllables of "go on," she's actually pushing it forward. She does it twice.
Yeah. You can nearly hear it in your head. You can
almost hear it. So I think the fact that you can basically hear her saying it in your head is why it has to be counted.
All right, okay then. I'm sold. So we're up to 44 then.
Okay.
Still don't think it's a catchphrase. No, I think I think I'm defeated in that count. But 44 so far in 14 episodes. So that's
a few per episode.
But if you take 25 plus 13, if you take 38 of them away, you're still only down to 6.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they didn't. I mean, it's a credit to them that they didn't peddle it out as a catchphrase. Exactly. It was only used a couple of times.
And speaking of catchphrases, I think Dougal's got one that's sort of been passed by. And he goes, "Wow." The way he says "wow."
Yeah.
It's sort of like I picked up on that when I'm doing my Father Dougal thing, and I try and use that, but it hasn't really hit public consciousness quite as much as Drink Freck or Scared or anything. But yeah, so when Dougal hears that they're going to go kidnapping Father Jack, "Wow, kidnapping! How much do we get for him?" But yeah, so they go up and they go to St. Clabert or Jurassic Park as it was known. Yeah. And they try and kidnap Jack back.
Dougal doesn't seem too keen to go.
He doesn't.
Whenever they're leaving the house, he goes back in, and then it seems very surprised to see Ted at the door whenever he enters. And then obviously whenever they reach there, then he runs down the yard instead of up. But he was a bit more. He went back that time.
Well, Ted had to drag him. Like Ted is a bad influence on Dougal, I think.
Ted's the driving influence here. Yeah.
Well, we've already discussed Ted's compulsive liar.
Yeah.
Here he is at a breaking and entering situation.
Yeah. And kidnapping.
Yeah. So they go around the Jurassic Park.
It's again something that came from the commentary. Graham Linehan said he didn't like that part.
Of them going around the torches.
You know the part where they have the torch and he goes around and he says that the guy who says I really shouldn't be here, he says every time he sees it he just sort of cringes.
Really?
Doesn't like it at all.
Right, because I thought he was going to say he didn't like the fact that all the priests were just doing the same thing. Like he thought he would want to be a bit more original with each one.
He said it was a lot of repetitiveness, and the guy, he really shouldn't have been there.
Well, that was a joke. Like, what I was going to mention about that bit is that usually for something like that would be the last one, and then the next one would be Jack.
Yeah.
Whereas that they didn't. They put it like about 4 from the end.
Yeah.
So he goes, I really shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Feck, arse, drink, and then they land on Jack.
Yeah.
So they were trying to, but I didn't realize he was so.
No, and Ardal O'Hanlon actually said that he really liked it, and he was a big fan of it. But no, Graham didn't.
Well, apparently, I need to listen to these. Do you have the DVDs? Do you?
Yeah.
I might need to borrow them off you, so
Right.
we can get the commentaries. But they were saying that a lot of the commentaries were just him, just badmouthing the show. It's like, oh god, that could have been so much better.
Yeah. They seem to have very high standards for themselves.
Well, it was their first big show. It has gone down in comic history now.
Yeah.
It's it's now an imprint of Irish culture, and you have 20 years of extra experience which you can look back on and say, oh, I should have done it this way, I should have done it that way.
Yeah.
But
I mean, whenever you look at it, they were writing sketches.
Yeah,
I mean, up to that point, their most famous sketch was Ted and Ralph on the Fast Show.
Which two of those? I know they wrote for the Fast Show, but which?
It was the farmer and his assistant or whatever, and the drainage in the lower fields, or that guy.
Is he the one that Paul Whitehouse was the farmer?
Yes.
And the estate owner was fancying him? That one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Up until that point, that was sort of their most successful, and they were writing for Armando Iannucci or somebody, and maybe Chris Morris, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think they were Chris Morris. They actually did Little Britain as well.
Right.
Would you believe?
Yeah.
So they were sort of milling around. In the early 90s, right up until like the 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were writing sketches, and then they make this sitcom that's.
I know.
Yeah, that's.
And apparently, it started out that they came to Jeffrey Perkins was the producer.
Sorry, we're back in South Central again.
Yeah.
I said that last week flippantly. We're in South Central and all the sirens going past, and then I realised afterwards we are actually in South Central Belfast.
True, yeah.
Because
Makes sense.
Yeah, but you're Jeffrey Perkins, right?
Yeah. So Jeffrey Perkins was the producer on the first series, and they came to him with an idea for a documentary, a mockumentary about priests.
Right. Okay.
They
So this would have been for the mockumentary style, I suppose, would it?
Not really. You still would have had Brass Eye and things like that around
Oh
that
yeah,
time.
of course, yeah.
But they came to him with that idea, and he said, that he didn't think it would work, but he said that there was so much good material in it that he said it's not going to work as a documentary. We need to get this as a sitcom.
Right. Okay.
And then they went to Channel 4, and I can't remember what it was they had done. I think it might have been something about hippies
Right.
that they had on Channel 4, and it absolutely tanked.
Like a previous sitcom.
Like a previous
Right.
sitcom, and it was apparently just awful. It was Paris, actually. It was about an artist, and it was along with Omid Djalili. He was in it. And it completely tanked, and then they had to go back to the same Channel 4 guy to get them to
Give the green light.
to give a green light to a sitcom about priests in Ireland, and with relatively unknown actors. So they said it was a really hard sell, and
I can imagine. Yeah.
it was Seamus. He sounds like he's from Derry.
Right. Okay.
And he was the guy from Channel 4 that they had to convince, and he said that it was too Irish.
Right, because
And
you would thought that if you were from Ireland and you're working Channel 4 in England, you're like, I get it, but nobody else will. Like,
but there was two other people who he was along with who were through and through English, and they said, well, we get it, we don't think it's too Irish, so that's how it eventually went through. And he said that for a script, it's not very often that the words just jump off the page and actually make you laugh out loud whenever you're reading it, and he said that's the way it was with that script. So
and that would have been Down With This Sort of Thing episode, I suppose, because I know that was the first one. Well, that was intended to be the first one they broadcast.
Right.
But that script was genuinely so tight. Like there was no lulls in that one.
Yeah.
Like even today's episode, there was a few lulls which I wasn't expecting. Like for the first laugh after the opening scene, like there's not another laugh for 4 or 5 minutes. Like
Right.
And any laughs that there are pretty standard sitcom fare. Like they're
Yeah.
whereas that script was just so. Yeah, it was so fully formed. So
Yeah, I mean, it's all killer, no filler.
exactly. But yeah. Well, and then they get they do eventually break Jack out at a second attempt after they got Father Walton, was it?
Father Walton, yeah. Stage 12.
Stage 12. I never thought I'd see one. The camera shot they used reminded me of Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah.
Where I just shot Marvin in the face. I don't know why, because we were last week. They obviously had a big Pulp Fiction reference at the end, so maybe it was in my head for that reason. But
Maybe.
I don't know if they were intentionally doing that or just that was like they just look around and.
Yeah, I suppose it's the only real camera angle you can have to get a good view of his face.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm actually thinking of when from the back seat. Looking back towards him. The famous Tarantino shot is, of course, from inside the boot. Yeah. Which now is definitely a reference to Tarantino, which you can't do it now without. Yeah. He's done it in every film. But so they get him out and he comes back. He dismounts that car with a fucking.
He's very keen, isn't he?
That was the stunt I was thinking of. It was definitely Frank Kelly who jumped out of that car.
Yeah.
And that car was moving, and he did that with fucking precision, and he didn't break stride or anything.
Well, that was one thing. Another thing from the commentary, Graham Lennon says that he wished he'd fallen over. And then he said, but then again, you know, he's a 60-odd-year-old man.
Yeah, exactly.
It might not have been very good for him. But he said it would have been just so much funnier if he'd fallen over.
Well, I think it worked anyway. Just the fact that he had the door open, he was ready just to pile out.
He was keen. He was very keen.
Yeah. It actually reminded me. Have you watched Black Sails, the Pirates TV show?
No.
It's genuinely one of my favorite shows at the minute.
Right.
It's the first show in years that's made me feel like a 10-year-old, like where I'm, come on, the good guys, oh, you stupid bad guys, that sort of way.
Right.
And one of the heroes in it dismounts a horse in full movement. He just swings his legs over the horse's head and just drops down without breaking stride and just gets into a walk.
Right.
Fucking amazing looking.
That would be class.
So that's what Jack did at first.
Yeah.
From a moving vehicle, not a horsepower, not a horse. Yeah, so everything goes back to normal when Jack is sequestered into an isolation booth because the chair is infected with the hairy priest disease. Yeah.
So Dougal apologizes to Ted for not disinfecting the chair, and he says it was probably his fault that fella got the hairy hands thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think Ted was too bothered about it.
No, I don't think so.
And seemed quite happy to have Jack back, even if he is in a big, glowing green.
Well, that's exactly
isolation
what they want him.
tent.
So he's there. He's just not making any noise. But it felt a bit unresolved when they got rid of Fintan Stack. It felt like he deserved a headbutt or something like that.
Because all you really get then is him in St. Clabert's, and then whenever the lights go out, his music comes on.
He plays jungle music. Yeah.
But you would have sort of liked him, I don't know, to get some sort of retribution. Well, I suppose the hairy hands was his
retribution of sorts.
Retribution, but I don't know. It didn't. It seemed quite tame.
Yeah, it felt like Ted's been punished much worse for lesser offences. Like in the show, like he's encountered physical pain where he's had all body casts and stuff. Like so, I don't know, a broken nose or two wouldn't have gone amiss. Like
no, because even like the nun doesn't come down and reprimand him or anything. He just the music plays and then the camera cuts away.
How would you deal with that though? If a place full of old crabbed priests.
I reckon I'd be stealing batteries out of that thing.
He would find a way, I'm sure. He'd just drill through the wall. Oh yeah, there's another power tool in the house, by the way. Yeah. They seem to have a right set of them out in the back shed somewhere.
Well, that's the way it is in sort of houses. You sort of just gather up power tools as you go through your life. And
you accumulate, don't you?
I suppose they've inherited this house from the last priests who were there, who probably left all their stuff, so you could have any number of things.
Yeah, true, actually, yeah. Well, we discussed it's a massive house and what could possibly be in all the rooms.
Yeah.
But power tools is obviously one room anyway.
Must be, yeah.
Was there anything else that you want to speak about in your notes?
No, that's everything. Just like you say, it ends off with going back to the sports day video, which I think is a nice touch because you don't really get to see that much of it because Father Stack comes in and sort of interrupts it. So I thought it was quite interesting that Dougal sort of just gets the sly kick in, but Ted's always more worried about how things look.
Yeah,
he's going over to try and get the camera off. So I think it in a way it sort of encapsulates both their characters quite well.
Well, now you mentioned that, I haven't realised Ted does that action quite a lot, where he pushes the camera away.
Yeah.
He really doesn't like the glare of the camera.
No,
as much as he says he thinks he does.
Yeah, as much as he thinks he'd love to be on TV or whatever, I don't think he likes being scrutinised like that.
Exactly, yeah. He doesn't like the full glare of the media spotlights.
Yeah.
Which I'd imagine was very would have been shining very bright on him when the money was resting in his account.
I'd say it probably was, yeah.
So him coming out of a tribunal of some sort and cameras flashing everywhere, he wouldn't have been too happy, I don't think. Yeah. But your thoughts on the episode then overall?
I liked it. I think it seemed like a solid episode. Like you say, there was bits of it that maybe weren't as good as others, but on the whole it was still a good episode. I don't think I'd put it in your list for the top.
I don't think so either.
I
don't think it's a top 5 contender. I thought it would be, but having watched it, I think it's merited enough.
Yeah.
It is. It's not just a situation like Father Stone, where a great character sort of papered over a very slow episode or anything. It was a good episode as well.
Yeah.
It'll be an upper mid card episode. Like it'll be sort of a Tottenham Hotspur rather than a Chelsea or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even use them anymore. Like the whole
Chelsea didn't do very well last year. So
I'm just gonna have a quick check to see what IMDb give it. Solid, but not spectacular.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was definitely some memorable bits in it. Like every time that Brenton Grace was on the screen, it was memorable. Like
yeah, and it has that Mrs Doyle part with the cards, and Brenton Grace's line of putting your head through the walls, one that gets carted out now and again.
Exactly. So IMDb give it a 8.2, and the next episode gets 8.7, which is the airplane episode, which I don't remember that fondly.
Yeah, it was. I didn't think it would have been better than this one.
Well, we'll see next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Sometimes you remember things a bit differently than whenever you watch them.
Yeah, exactly. See, I haven't actually seen the airplane episode all that often as well.
Yeah.
So that might also be colouring it. But yeah, so I'll just go through some of the ratings from season 2. So the highest 2 was Hell, which was Graham Norton's episode,
right,
and Song for Europe, which was the Eurovision episode.
Yeah.
After that, the lowest episode was the Rockahula Ted, which was Niamh Connolly.
Oh right, yeah.
Which I would agree with. I do think that
that
probably is the weakest of the series.
I'd say I'd go with that.
Well, yeah. So thanks very much for coming all the way up here.
No problemo.
Doing all your notes and everything, and
yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was a good call.
Fantastic. Well, also big news: we are performing at Culture Night Belfast on the 16th of September, Friday night. Which will be brilliant. So that'll be a live episode, so people will be invited to come down and watch us. Oh. So we'll try and get everyone down as much as we can, and
very good.
Hopefully you'll be there.
Yeah.
But thanks very much for listening. Give us a rating and review on iTunes. We are on Reddit as well. If you go to the Father Ted subreddit, we have discussion forums there. We've got our facebook.com/ecumenical matters. Yeah, thanks very much for listening, and bless you.